Welcome to All Things Financial with Jack Driscoll. Each week, Jack takes on all things you thought were hard to understand about your finances and makes it fun, easy, but most of all interesting. From insurance to the best way to save your money and squeeze the most out of the dollars you put aside for your rainy day. And now, you have a friend in the money business. Here's your host, Jack Driscoll.
Welcome back again, everyone, to another edition of All Things Financial. What we were discussing in our first series on life insurance were some basics on life insurance policy audits and some basics on the different forms of life insurance. What I want to do today is go over the second part of that series, which, as promised, is programming needs. Now, what I mean by programming needs is most people, when I ask, do you have life insurance? They'll say yes. And I'll ask, what do you have? Why do you have it? And where do you have it? And they'll say, well, I have group life insurance. And so they might have a group benefit, 1 or 2 times their salary. They might have their spouses and family included by endorsement on that also. And they might have individual policies. If they have individual policies, that to me means they decided to purposely go out and purchase life insurance for a specific reason. So a lot of times I'll ask, how much do you have and why did you choose what form of life insurance that you have? Let's say a lot of times the response I get is, I have a $100,000 policy, so-and-so insurance company. I'll ask them why, but initially that normally almost instinctively tells me there has been no needs programming done on their case. Because $100,000 is traditionally the generic amount that most people buy when they buy life insurance, thinking, I need some, I guess I need life insurance. Or they'll go on the web and purchase, and almost all life insurance is sometimes quoted per $100,000. So they'll buy $100,000. And I look at that as a financial planner and say to myself, but to me, no one has probably programmed your needs at all. And by needs, I not only mean how much life insurance they need, I mean, do they need life insurance at all? So a lot of prospective clients I will ask, do you have life insurance? And most of them, oh, yeah, we're covered. And I'll say, why do you have it? Do you even need life insurance? Almost all the time, or in almost every case, I'll get the response, well, yeah, everybody needs life insurance. And I'll ask them why. Again, they'll say, well, to bury us and pay off our bills and all. And I'll say, well, are your bills exactly $100,000? And that starts the discussion on, well, no, but it was a start. And I'll ask, has anyone gone through a process called programming your needs? And in many cases, almost always, they will say, what is that? And I'll say, well, programming your needs is looking at your own individual circumstances, whether you're a business owner or whether you're an individual, looking at what would happen to those of you around you, to the business associates, to the company itself, to your own family, to your heirs and your loved ones, if something happened to you and they lost your income and lost you due to premature death. Which again is very similar to the discussion, what happened if you were disabled and lost the income that's coming into your family or your business. So the conversations are very similar. And in most cases, people will say, no one's ever gone through the whole process of helping me evaluate how much or how little life insurance I really need. So I'll say, well, the process starts with a conversation. It's not a conversation to buy life insurance, disability insurance, or any other kind of insurance. It's simply a conversation to say, if something happened to you, financially, would anyone be impacted? I want you to think about that in your own individual circumstance and ask yourself now that same question. If something happened to you yesterday you got hit by a bus, you're no longer here, you died prematurely, would anyone be impacted financially? If the answer is yes, you need to get out a sheet of paper and write them down. Well, yes, my wife, and you write that down. My wife would need an income substitute. My wife would need the bills paid off. My husband would need this. My business associate would need this. I'm a partner in a business. If I died, what would happen to my share? Would my spouse have that and be burdened with the other half of the company and running the company now, which most of us as business owners know we absolutely would not want? They would not be capable of stepping in and running the business, and my other partners would not want them coming in to run the business. So you write the needs down. You don't write the solutions down now. Don't jump right now to, oh no, what do I need to fix this? The first step in programming is simply saying, do I or does anyone else have the problem, have any financial problems if something happens to me? And if so, what are the problems? So you're only seeking the problems right now. Get them down on paper. Husband and wife. Husband dies. Maybe we need the car loans paid off. Maybe we need the mortgage paid off. Maybe they want to establish college funding for their 1-year-old and their 3-year-old now that they may not be able to make it financially. Maybe they want an income stream coming in for their spouse. Those type of things. Get them down on paper. Maybe now the spouse will need a retirement, a self-funding retirement account over the next 30 years because you were the funding for the retirement account over 30 years. And you know what? I have other couples, and this is fine too. The husband or wife will tell me, hey, if something happens to me, the other can get remarried. So that's why we program needs. I'm not saying there's a right way or a wrong way. I am saying everyone's needs and situations are unique to themselves and to yourselves. So what you want to do is write down the areas of concerns that you have or don't have. And you as husband and wife, you as business owner partners, each write your own down separately. You may have a different set of needs and concerns. So that's what we mean when we talk about programming needs. Let me take a quick break. When we come back, I'll get into some details on how to do programming needs and how to do it on your own personal situation. So let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
If you're a business owner or an independent contractor, you know the cost of doing business. You have your equipment, your personnel, advertising costs, and doing everything you can to outdo the competition. But do you run your business, or does your business run you? Your business is truly an investment. Is that investment insured? Jack Driscoll is here to help. At Driscoll Insurance Financial Services, he provides complete business planning services ranging from property insurance programs to disability, life, hospitalization, and long-term care programs. He not only designs insurance protection plans tailored for your business and protects what is already built, but strives to strengthen your business through providing employee benefit and group programs. It's through this unique combination of skills that Jack has become a valuable resource for business owners and managers. Educate yourself first by going to DriscollFinancial.com and clicking on Business Insurance, or give Jack a call at 412-833-1500. Your business and your employees need you to be prepared, and you need to be protected. Log on to DriscollFinancial.com or call 412-833-1500. Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services. Insure for today, invest for tomorrow.
Okay, let's get some of these issues on programming needs and give you some examples in sight. One of the very first ones that we would ever see. A couple might tell me, yes, of course we need life insurance. We need something to bury us with. So you'd look at burial life insurance. When I look at burial life insurance, I'm looking at a certain amount, whatever a burial costs, and typically somebody might say $15,000 today. But remember, I've been in business since 1976. Back then it was $5,000. So if it's gone from $5,000 to $15,000 in 30 plus years, you'd figure for anyone looking at life insurance today, they might be looking at more toward $30,000. So keep that in mind when you're looking at let's cover for burial expenses. Now, that's for both people. If it's a husband and wife, we'll get into a situation where when we do burial insurance, the issue is if I die by a certain time, in many cases, because after that, the family might think we have enough money or should have enough money after a certain point in time, by the time we retire or whatever, that we wouldn't need to insure for that need. So they would no longer need life insurance to take care of that after a certain point. So keep that in mind. But burial needs or burial insurance would really be the first thing that most people would think of on why they need or want life insurance. Now, a second one is when you look at burial needs, you might actually go and say, is life insurance the only way I can solve these problems? And I'm here to tell you, in most cases, life insurance isn't the only way to solve most problems. It may be the best way in some cases. It may be the most cost-effective way in other cases. So you may look at many different options and see that life insurance is best suited to solving some of the needs. Burial expenses is usually one of them, because some of the other options might be, I could save up my money, you could save in a bank, you could put that money aside, and after 10 or 15 years have the money saved yourselves and no longer need life insurance. The problem with that is painfully obvious. It takes a long time to build a fund where what if something happens tomorrow and your very first deposit of $25 is sitting in the bank. You have a grand total of $25 toward your burial account, don't you? But if you put $25, that same $25 toward a burial account life insurance that may be paid $20,000 death benefit, that death benefit would pay from day one. Something happens to you tomorrow, the whole death benefit, once that policy went into force, gets paid. So you've, in essence, turned $25 into a $20,000 benefit for the family, as opposed to the savings account at the bank. So be careful when you're looking at all these different options. Some of them, life insurance truly is the best suited alternative. But I have another one for you. When we talk burial expenses, there are opportunities through the funeral homes and the cemeteries to actually get pre-need funeral and cemetery expense coverage or contracts with, let's take example, a funeral home. I bring that up because when you look at anything, life insurance or otherwise, earmarked for a specific need, then you also want to consider, if we're talking burial expenses, going to the funeral homes and going to the cemeteries and asking them, do you have opportunities that if something happened to us today, or for whenever it happens, not within a certain period of time, not dying prematurely, but rather going to the funeral homes or cemeteries and asking, is there a way that we can pre-plan with you? And they'll say yes. And then you'll say, what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages? Now, when you go through some of those options, you'll find something interesting. You'll find that you can establish the same type of program with vastly different benefits, where just starting with $25 a month, for example, might buy you the full benefit of headstones, caskets, burial, open and closing, same thing with the graves, funeral, 2-day viewings, the whole works there, if you're trying to get all those paid for in advance. Again, life insurance is one of them, but pre-need funeral planning is another one. When you do the pre-need funeral planning, it gives you opportunities to have benefits you can't get just through the life insurance. Some of those are this. You go and you pre-arrange what you actually are looking for to accomplish. So you say, I want to actually make arrangements for the casket, the headstone, the burial, of the opening and closing of the graves, all the things that and decisions that my family would have to make that would be a burden on them at the worst period of their lives. I want to prearrange now, so they're not burdened with any of those problems or headaches or heartaches. Again, it's the worst period of their life in grieving the loss of yourself or a loved one that you're taking a burden away from them, saying you don't have to, your first job if I pass away is not that you have to go see the funeral director or you have to go to the funeral home and you have to make all these arrangements. So the first major benefit of pre-need planning is an intangible benefit, not necessarily a financial one, of simply arranging everything first so your loved ones don't have to. So that's number one. Number two, there is a financial benefit. What happens if today's pre-need funding would cost $15,000 once you add up the cost of the funeral, the viewing, the publishing in the paper, the casket, the vault, opening and closing of the graves, etc. You add up all of that, and even buying the lot, when you add all of that up, it might come to $15,000 or $18,000. So it's possible by doing it pre-need that if you have $15,000 or $18,000 now, you give it to the funeral home or the cemetery, and if you don't have the funding now, you start a savings program, but with the cemetery or a funeral home or combination, that with your first deposit of $25, it, through them, insures the remaining balance if something happens to you prematurely, but also locks in that any future increases in prices, in most cases with all funeral homes and cemeteries that provide pre-need planning and the pre-need funding that accompanies that planning, that you've frozen your cost, but any increase in price appreciation over the 20 or 30 years, those costs grow to $25,000 or $30,000, that you've already established all of those solutions and all of the costs so that any increases in prices will be covered by the funeral home or the cemetery or the funding vehicle that they use. And the funding vehicle that they use, typically with a cemetery, might be a savings account or a funding institution, but typically through the funeral homes and cemeteries, they will also use a unique form of pre-need life insurance. Unlike what we can buy on the retail market, here's one of the major differences. The death benefit on life insurance you buy on the retail market typically stays the same level as what you bought. So if you buy a $15,000 policy, or as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, you may need to buy and project your needs in advance, a $30,000 death benefit policy. You don't have to do that when you do pre-need. When you do pre-need funding through one of their life insurance programs, uniquely tailored for pre-need markets, you'll buy the $15,000 cost today amount. You'll pay a premium only on the pre-need amount, and the premium will actually go toward, let's say it's $25 a month again. The life insurance death benefit on the policy you're buying will actually grow by the cost of inflation or a fixed amount. So the funeral home says, if you do this all through us, the funeral home or cemetery may say, we guarantee and insulate you from all future increases in prices. They might take the risk of the future increases in prices from you and put the burden on themselves because they're funding it by an insurance policy that is growing the face amount every year. So what I want you to do is, when you're looking at burial expense, this is why I called this show Programming Your Needs. It does not mean anything other than, once you find out what your needs are, get to a certified financial planner who understands all of these different areas and all of the resources available to you, not just here, buy life insurance to solve that. It may be one good solution, but it may not be the only one best solution for each of your needs. So when you come to see a professional, come prepared with your list of needs. If it's a certified financial planner who's competent in all areas of financial planning, they will help guide you through this maze and matrix of what do I do next, which is best, what avenue is best to choose. There are many different issues. When I talk about this funeral need planning, people will say, what happens if the funeral home that I do this with goes under? Or people will say, what happens with the life insurance policy goes under? Well, typically, in that scenario, your contract is with the funeral home or the cemetery. So even if their funding vehicle of choice would go under, your contract was with the funeral home promising those benefits that you'd no longer owe any more on, or the cemetery. And you say, what if this cemetery or funeral home where you have your contract goes under? Well, typically there, the life insurance policy would still then be in existence, and you would still have the funding built up, and you're allowed to substitute in those cases a different funeral home at that time or a cemetery to complete your needs. So it is a very well-tailored solution for those of you who choose to evaluate all of the resources. Again, rather than doing it all on yourself, get to a qualified, certified financial planner who is well-versed in all of these areas that can help guide you through the matrix and maze to help you make good and better financial decisions than you can make on your own. All right, now on the life insurance side, if you buy the life insurance and you buy it for your burial expenses, who are you going to name as the beneficiary? If you buy retail life insurance, you're not going to make the beneficiary the funeral home or the cemetery. You're going to make the beneficiary in most cases still your spouse or your loved ones. And they will then in turn turn the check over to the funeral home or cemetery to pay them. If you buy the pre-need funeral life insurance directly through the funeral homes or the cemeteries, the beneficiary will be directly the funeral home or the cemetery. So there is a little difference there. In both cases, the death benefit is still received tax-free, income tax-free. Now that brings up another issue. I won't get into all of these details. I keep getting and expanding the details of this discussion. But remember, death benefits on life insurance are traditionally tax-free if and only if they are made payable to a qualified beneficiary. The reason I'm saying that is, number one, many people only have one beneficiary listed, their spouse. So they have their primary beneficiary listed. But what happens if you and your spouse die in a car accident? Most people forget to list contingent beneficiaries. And in the case that you only have one beneficiary, let's say it's your spouse, and you both die in a car accident, guess what? You just made the estate your beneficiary, which means you probably violated the tax-free benefit of life insurance. And those heirs passing through the estate now, which would be your children in most cases, who you initially intended for the money to go to anyway if something happened to you and your spouse together, now have to pay tax, income tax. So be very careful on your beneficiaries to list primary beneficiaries and contingent beneficiaries. I will do another show, I'm sure, sometime in the future on beneficiary reviews. I run into it all the time, but that's just a touch on it on this subject. All right, so that's only the very first need in programming needs. And you can see how complicated it can get to make what? A good decision on the life insurance? No. I want you to make the best decision you can possibly make, and that means you have to evaluate all these different options and alternatives that are available to you, so your eyes are wide open and you're educated to make sure you are making the best decisions for yourselves. That's why the show's called All Things Financial. All right, let's take another quick break and we'll be right back.
Most would agree that no one could put a monetary price tag on our lives. You and I are truly priceless. However, the cost to our loved ones could be dramatic if we don't prepare for the challenges they may face should we pass away. Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services has a great tool on their website, driscollfinancial.com. When you click on the link for a free life insurance quote, you can see the different opportunities available for term life insurance from several providers, including some well-known companies. All you do is answer a few questions about yourself. It literally takes seconds, and you may be surprised to see how affordable term life insurance can be. Experts recommend that you carry life insurance equal to 8 to 10 times your annual salary. So what are you waiting for? Go to driscollfinancial.com and get a free quote. And while you're there, check out the vast array of services that Jack Driscoll has to offer. Or call his office in Bethel Park at 412-833-1500. That's 412-833-1500. Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services. Insure for today. Invest for tomorrow.
Well, we're out of time for today's show. So what we'll do next week is continue our discussion on life insurance programming, on different areas that you need to protect yourselves for, And if we weren't out of time, I'd continue, but we'll hit it on next week's series. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back again next week.
You've been listening to All Things Financial with your friend with the answers to all financial matters, Jack Driscoll of Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services. Securities and investment advisory services offered through Sage Point Financial Incorporated, a registered broker-dealer and registered investment advisor and member FINRA and SIPC. Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services is not affiliated with Sage Point Financial, Inc. or registered as a broker, dealer, or investment advisor. You can reach Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services Incorporated at 412-833-1500, and they are located at 2738 South Park Road, Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, 15102.